Okay, so this video today is about how to tell if your Google ads that you're running are profitable or not. Or basically, another way to put it is to say, what do I need out of my Google ads in order to basically keep them running? You may be running Google ads right now for yourself, maybe for a few months, and it's really just a mystery as to what are you getting out of them, how do you tell? And so in this video, I'm going to answer all those questions, and I'm going to take things, basically a bit further than most videos you're going to find on this topic, in that most people, other PPC people that do what I do here, run an agency for a living, managing PPC ads, they'll tell you to track your results with the what they call conversion tracking in the Google Ads menu. You can set up goals, and then within that you can optimize your account on those goals. That's great. It's a part of the plan that you should always have, but there should be other planning involved in your business even before you run ads. And so now one of my important points, and this is a philosophy that I use on all of our own campaigns, before you spend a single dollar on your ads, you should be running all these quote-unquote formulas, return on investment calculator, or return on investment calculator that you come up with, and a formula that you come up with to determine what you need out of your ads in order to A, be profitable, and then B, what do you actually want to do out of those ads if you were to get unprofitable, and then what are further goals beyond that. So basically you should have a whole roadmap of what you should be able to do and want to do with your campaign. Find out if it's realistic. Maybe run that plan to get in front of somebody who has experience running Google ads for a long time, like myself, that can tell you for a particular market and particular type of business, is it realistic? And then go in with your investment. Given that you might take $5,000 to $20,000 just to be able to have a proof of concept, start making money with your ads in terms of setting everything up, landing pages, so on and so forth. You should really do that for yourself. And what I tell my clients basically is, I go through all that stuff with the client. Nobody else does it in my business as far as I can tell, to the level that I do it, and trying to figure out what it is that your numbers need to be profitable. I have some theories behind that, namely that they don't really want to be pinned down to any specific level of performance, and they're hoping for somebody who doesn't know how to track these things, and therefore it'll be easier to get away with poor performance. That in any case, regardless of that, if you do it yourself or work with somebody who doesn't provide that level of planning on your campaign for you, you'll run your ads for a few months, like maybe you have already, maybe you haven't, and then you're going to ask yourself, is it making money? And you go back to that same question again. And so one way or another, you're going to have to figure out, is this thing making money now, or what is it ultimately that your cost per lead or the cost per sale or the ROI that you need from the campaign, or revenue over the ad spend, basically as a ratio, to be able to make money with your account. And in order to figure that out, instead of just pulling a number out of the air, you can run some basic math here, which I'm going to demonstrate on how to figure out what it is that you should be generating a lead for in your business if you're doing non-e-commerce, and if you are in e-commerce, what you should have, how you figure out a proper course of action to plan out your campaign. First of all, to get to a profitable state or break even, to know when you get there, and so that you're confident about keep going forward, and where it is profitable for you in terms of the ratio of revenue to ad spend. And then from there, you'll be able to you're in a good, you have something that's going to be feasible to move forward with it. So in any case here, I'm going to explain the differences, the formula that you would actually use, how to figure that out for you, for yourself, and then go ahead and use it. But so in any case, initially here, to know if your ads are working or not, it should boil down to, obviously, and if are my ads profitable? Is what I'm paying for the ads and the cost of goods sold that I'm selling, or the cost of delivering the services, the salaries of the people delivering the service working for me, or what it costs to deliver this service with all expenses in, and then your ad spend to pay Google as its own expense, is that being covered, and is there money left over after you account the gross revenue that you're able to get from the products and services that you're selling? And so that should be always your goal no matter what. You can figure that out. You don't have to tell yourself, oh, it's too complicated for me to figure out. That's my opinion. That's baloney. You can always figure that out, and you should figure that out before you get started for the reasons. And basically what I said before, why you should do that. But in any case, if you have let's just say you're starting out a non-e-commerce business where you don't do basically orders to your cart, that you should figure out, and what you'll have to do is, a lot of people, it feels like I'm pulling teeth with people to ask them to do this, and this is for their own benefit. Yes, it's a little bit like taking medicine, but if you want to be successful and not throw away thousands of dollars here, or be sweating bullets later, you go ahead and do this. So go ahead and pull up your last 3 years of your sales logs and figure out, like, your phone, if you have the number of calls, and one way or another you can figure out how many calls are coming in from your business before, and the people filling out the forms on your site, basically your leads coming in, and then compare that to your books, your accounting program, your QuickBooks, and find out what your ratio of the raw calls or people filling out the form on your website is to actual sales, to find out what your close rate is on sales. And then also, when you have your leads from the past 3 years, compare it to all your advertising spend through your ad account if it's your primary source of leads right now, and if Google Ads is not more than half of your business, obviously you can look at all the leads you have coming in, and then find out, and then you'll have to look into those customers or clients that you have and how much they spent with you on average. So during that same 3 year period, take an average of all the customers you had, and then all the future purchases or likely future revenue they would have from you in the future if you had to guess. Try to get it close. Lifetime value, in other words, and then add in, and then run that lifetime value then and divide that by your ad spend, and then you'll be able to find out what your gross ROI is. From there, with that number, you can set a target with your ad campaign that that you need to be profitable, because then you can add in your expenses, and you can, for the most part, figure out what your ratio, what do your gross sales need to be compared to your ad spend in order to make money. Cost of goods and the other basic expenses that you have. But in any case, you could come out with your lifetime value number pretty easily by just averaging it out. Like, for the most part, I just look at the last 3 years worth of data that I have in order to figure out what our target should be for the campaign. And you can do that. And then for e-commerce businesses, basically you're just taking out the whole leads and the close rates, and then you're just looking at all the customers you had in the last 3 years, what have they purchased, not just on the initial purchase through you, but on all future purchases, and then divide that by your total ad spend, and then you can find out your gross ROI. Once you have your gross ROI, then you can then back that out and look at your basic expenses and find out where your gross ROI needs to be in order to make money. From there, it's just a matter of, generally, if you know that and for most businesses, obviously, they're shooting for like an 8-to-1 revenue over the cost of the ad spend, which we call in the industry return on account spend, that you're going to need in order to have money left over after all your expenses and your ad spend is needing to be paid. And so everything initially, what you're doing is getting to there, and then from there you're trying to add more ad spend, more strategies, and maintain that ratio, or at least when you add in new stuff, optimizing it until you get the ratio dialed in again, and then you add the next thing. And that's how you take into account that started out spending $1,000 to $3,000 a month to spending $30,000 to $100,000 a month. Nobody usually starts out like that, no matter if it's a big company or not. You come up with a plan, you know where you need to be to break even, and then from there, or to actually be able to make money, where the profit or acceptable return, and then you scale it up like that. But so in any case, regardless of what business you're in, e-commerce or non-e-commerce, you should do that. And so, and then of course, within that, so if you find out so as you run your numbers here, you want to look at your close rates and the number of leads that it takes ultimately, or took, to get that revenue for you. In that, you want to boil everything down to, as you're running your ads, to what is it that your cost per lead needs to be in order to hit your gross ROI. So for non-e-commerce businesses, that's critical, essentially, because what you'll be able to do is, in your conversion menu, like everybody else will tell you, you could hook up goal tracking or conversion tracking in your ad account, so you can see where the leads are coming from, and ultimately where you need to set your bids on all the traffic that you're pulling in order to still get the gross ROI figure that you're looking for, and the ratio of the revenue to the ad spend. But in a non-e-commerce business, you can track all the phone calls. If you have less than 10% of all your leads that you found that came from phone calls, maybe you just exclude that and you just get the people filling out the form. But you track how many forms are coming in from your site, so when you run your ads, you can see what your cost per lead is, and you'll know what cost per lead you need in order to hit your gross profit, because you ran all those numbers ahead of time about what your lifetime value is per customer and what your close rates are, and then therefore you can figure out what the number of leads that you need on a given ad spend, or a cost per lead. Then it's just a matter of running your ads. Even if your ads start out inefficient when you get started, or they are right now, usually from the day one that you launch a campaign, it might be able to get 5 to 10 times more profitable since day one, for the quality score algorithm that Google has. And the cost assuming your ads are set up right, your cost per click will go down. You'll be able to weed out all the fat that isn't working and scale up the parts that are, taking away from the parts that aren't working and moving it to the parts that are. If you have the conversion tracking set up in your account, you can see then what's getting your cost per lead that you need to get to the gross ROI, revenue over ad spend, that you need. And so then it's just a matter of anything that's not getting the cost per lead that you need, you take it out, and the parts that are, or even grossly above where you need to be, you can increase the bid in those areas, whether that's different markets, geographic markets, individual states will have an impact on your return on investment. Keywords, of course, device, age, gender. You can adjust your bids on each one of those levels, which your competitors virtually probably won't be doing unless you're in a very competitive market. So really, it's just a process of elimination once you have that revenue, that tracking set up on your ad account to show you where the leads are coming from, and to dial everything in to get the count of where it's making money, because you know what your cost per lead you need already to get to this gross profit number. If you're an e-commerce business, it's the same thing. For the most part, on an e-commerce account, if I'm going to optimize that, and we already know the ratio of the initial ad spend we'll need through the cart coming in, or the revenue on the initial order versus the ad spend, then we dial everything into that, and we'll just track the cart orders, and so that we just know what our ratio of orders to the ad spend needs to be in order to get to our gross profit figure that we need. And then, though, if you are selling a product that is over $200 in average transaction value, or per item, however you want to word that, basically what you're going to want to do is there's a process called offline conversion tracking, where you can take if somebody fills out the form or calls, so everything on your site will be about pretending that you're just going to only take the order over the phone or through the cart. But then if the item is more than $200, roughly give or take, a lot of times ahead of time that they're going to call or fill out the form, ask questions first, make sure it's a real company, get questions answered, get confident with you and your company, your process, all of that, and then put their order through, either through the cart then later on, or if you specifically along with this, if you take the orders through the phone as well, through a virtual terminal system, then there's a way to take the purchases you get through the phone, or you would specifically, and pipe that back into your account. So in that case, you'd set up tracking of the phone calls, the forms coming in, and so if they purchase offline, you can also get that data in there. So then you're being able to see all the sales that came through. You'll know then what your ratio of your gross revenue to ad spend needs to be to hit your number of your profit number that you need. And then again, it's just a process of elimination again. And so that is essentially the process that you go through to know, set a goal, know you need to hit profit, and then basically know if you are profitable or not. And so that ahead of time, you know what you need to you have a hard number driven, or where you're driving the account to, and then when you get there, you can have a plan to scale it up, but you'll know before you get started where you need to be. With all that said, so I mentioned if you're not, so basically if you get started, or you're right now, you've set all this tracking up here that I mentioned, and you're not getting the cost per lead or the ratio of revenue versus ad spend you're at, again, all you're doing is just going to weed out the fat. You're going to see exactly what's producing leads or sales and what's not. You're going to weed those out, and then you're going to have it. And then you can work on, if you want to scale the account past that, once you get to profitability, you can add other keywords, you can add other Facebook ads, other networks. That's how you build an account that makes millions of dollars a year, starting from you relatively basically no ad spend or very little initial investment, a few $1,000s basically. But along with that, basically what you'll do for your long-term planning is I would recommend going 3 years back, writing down your sales revenue, going back to our looking at your past notes, write down in a spreadsheet what your sales revenue was by month, so you can see all the seasonal differences that in your sales has it been normally, and then your ad spend if you had it already by month, so you can see your ratio of revenue to ad spend as you've been going through this. And then when you go through your process of elimination, you can basically know where you're profitable, and then you can also see based upon what time of the year you're at, because in a lot of businesses, e-commerce orders are going to be towards Christmas time, and so you're having different ratios of return on investment then versus the rest of the year. Or if you're like in construction, during the spring is going to be better than especially like the winter, and that you can know kind of, because the ratio of the ROI will vary through the year. You can set goals in place that where things are a little wonky, that you can have a set amount of revenue for that particular month and how it behaves. And then from there, you can go down in bids or upper bids to make sure you're still for the year coming out. Make sure you have the cost per lead where you need it to be, where you know ahead of time makes money, or the cost per sale where it needs to be to make money. And then within that, every year you can already factor in, a 20% increase in profitability from your ads at minimum, depending on how much time you spend in the process. If you actually do spend a lot of time and effort and know exactly what you're doing, you usually can forecast 100% year-over-year increase in the profitability of the ad account just by going through the process that I mentioned to you there. So that's essentially how the process works to scale up an account. But so yeah, that tells you the process that I basically go through to have a plan in place to know where to go to, what and how to tell if it's profitable. That certainly should be what you're doing too as well. I will tell you that pretty much 90% of people that try out AdWords don't make it work, so don't feel bad if it hasn't already. And most of that is because they simply did not know what they needed out of their ad account to make money. They invested a few $1,000s. They're literally, as asinine as it seems to me, they're just they're judging by gut feel if the phone started ringing more or the orders came in, and more so than it seemed like it did. And as I mentioned before, month by month, your sales are going to be affected, and so you've got to know the small nuances throughout the year to even know where you're at. And then within that, you obviously have to be able to, you may have other sources of business coming in. You got to know as a whole what your cost per lead or cost per sale on the initial transaction has to be in order to know if it made money, because it isn't. And for most people, you just aren't going to be able to tell unless you've done that. And so, but if you do that, and then knowing ahead of time that it's just a process of elimination you're going through to be able to get the cost per lead or cost per sale, what it needs to be to back out to have the gross profit and net profit that ultimately you're after, it's just really, putting the work in, doing the things I said. Eventually, you're going to have what you need, and then, basically. What you can do is if you're starting out, you are a smaller company and you don't have the budget to hire a PPC strategist firm that can help you do the more advanced stuff. It'll help you scale up an account. Just get the basic stuff going, get it profitable, hand it off to a guy like me. I'm going to be able to implement all the other stuff that's going to scale the spend up, and then just go through the same process. You work on basically scaling up the operation side of your business, and then you have a guy that just does AdWords, Google Ads, it's called Google Ads nowadays, not AdWords, they changed the name, to be able to scale up the account. And then for somebody who only spends all their time in Google Ads with the strategies, testing the stuff that works on other accounts so that when they work on your account, they know exactly what to apply. It's a relatively easy process. You're just doing process of elimination. So in any case, that's how we do it here at the firm and how I'd recommend you do it. And if you have any questions about how to set up this conversion tracking on your account, you need to be able to know where you're at on your cost per lead, cost per sale, or to figure out what is your cost per sale or cost per lead need to be in order to hit a specific amount of gross ROI, gross profit, net profit. I have a tool that I can basically give to you that we can crunch all those numbers as long as you can get your close rate on your leads. If you're a non-e-commerce business that you have and your lifetime value on a customer, or if you're an e-commerce business, basically what your lifetime value of a customer is. Some businesses don't need it because if people only buy once and only once, that's just how it is going to be. In that case, we don't even need that. I can help you crunch all those numbers like I would for anybody else, and then you can know exactly what you need from your campaign. And then you can hook up this tracking on your account. If you're running ads now, and you can see exactly how far you are off base on that right now, or what you need to do, and then basically come up with a plan to know how to bridge that gap, or start scaling things up because it is working, you just don't know it yet. So anyway, hopefully that helped. I'll answer any questions that you have. Just go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section. I do have a lot of other videos, similar videos to